Afternoon and welcome to the April Ordinary Council meeting. Item 1, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture and acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Before I move on, Gary Wandawa is sitting next to me, who is our acting CEO at this particular point. Fiona Legasic is on leave, and we also welcome Jeff Akers, who is on the screen for those in the boardroom and obviously joining in online. Item 2, privacy notice. This public meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website, along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at this meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes. And we do welcome members in the gallery this afternoon, and obviously former Mayor and Councillor Jeff Dobson. Item 3, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9.2 of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are as followed. Councillors, they're listed 1 to 9 on page 6 of the agenda. Item 4, apologies nil received. Item 5, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors, do we have any conflicts this afternoon? No.
I'll declare for 11.5.
Councillor Akers. Item 11.5.
Yep.
Thank you. No other conflicts this afternoon? No, thank you, councillors. Item 6, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Are any of the minutes opposed? No. Can I have a council please move that? Councillor Spinks.
I'll move that the minutes of the 25th March 2025 council meeting as circulated be confirmed.
Councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second that myself.
Councillor Riddy. Councillors all in favour? Motion carried. Item 7, public question time, nil received. Item 8, deputations and petitions, nil received. Councillors, over the page to page 8, item 9.1, Greater Shepparton Volunteer Action Plan 2025 to 2029. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I'll move that the council note the Greater Shepparton Volunteer Action Plan 2025 to 2029 as attached.
Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Brophy.
Second that, Mayor Sally.
You, Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to briefly explain, this document has been created collaboratively through the Greater, let me make sure I get this acronym right, Greater Shepparton Volunteer Managers Network, the GSVMN. It is a collaborative effort of over 40 volunteer involving organisations, including council, of course, and has been created really in response to what we know is a challenging volunteer environment. We know that numbers are dwindling. We know it's increasingly difficult to have people engaged in volunteering activities. And we also know the absolute value that volunteering offers to our community. We have a note here that it says in 2019, the cost to the Victorian community of replacing volunteers' labour would have been $19.4 billion. And I would argue that in the years following for Greater Shepparton, we would have put an awful lot more into that. Volunteers make our community go round. They are truly essential to the way that the services provided, the way that we connect and interact, and the vibrancy of our community. So it's essential that we work to meet the challenges face on, and this action plan we are only noting today because it is a collaborative effort across so many agencies, but I'm highly supportive of. We should be doing anything and everything we can to support our volunteers. So this is great.
Councillor Spinks. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just picking up on what Councillor Spinks said, that really without our volunteer society simply just wouldn't function. They really are the lifeblood of the activities that we do and some of the services that are delivered. But we have seen, as pointed out, a decrease locally and I'm sure nationally of volunteers. And I think locally here, over 2,500 decrease in volunteers in the 5 years leading up to 2021. COVID obviously was a factor, but there were other factors involved there as well. It really is, volunteering is about social cohesion. It's about what you can give back to society as well. And that's what a lot of volunteers do. The action plan that's been put forward here is a collaboration, as highlighted, between Greater Shepparton City Council and the Greater Shepparton Volunteers Managers Network. And it really aspires for four areas: to promote the volunteerism, engaging young people, networking, but also reward and recognition. And of course, the volunteer awards certainly demonstrate the selfless individuals and organisations that really are simply outstanding.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thanks. I'd first like to recognise the good work that did go into constructing this plan and note, as the others did, that volunteering is of integral importance. Most community services would not function without people putting their hands up to do work in spaces that just can't be accommodated by paid employment. And people volunteer for many reasons, including the opportunity to give back and feel their own sense of achievement from helping others. But if I can give some constructive feedback on the plan itself, many actions listed in it are not measurable. So if we aim to continue growing our volunteer base, we've got to find tangible ways to engage more people. And over the years, we know that red tape has increased. It's out of our hands, but it's become somewhat of a disincentive. People now need to jump through hoops and often need working with children checks to participate in volunteering. So personally, I'd like to see actions that make this process clearer and more manageable for everyone. So many people who want to volunteer don't actually know how to. It might also help to provide a database of volunteer organisations, possibly on the Greater Shepparton app, as well as pathways for making contacts with these organisations, similar to a job-seeking website. And as Councillor Brophy mentioned, we do have volunteer awards coming up, and that's a great opportunity for people to network and gain information about upcoming opportunities and to reward those who already are volunteers. Putting the right person in the right position is important for them as well as the community at large. So I'm in favour of noting the plan, but I just hope in future we can evolve into more pointed actions. And I know this won't get reviewed again till 2029, so hopefully in between we can do our own kind of approach.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Page 14, item 9.2, Positive Ageing Advisory Committee and Disability Advisory Committee terms of reference. There is a recommendation. Can I have the councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Saley.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Oh, sorry.
You read it out?
Yeah, did you
Sorry.
read out the motion, Councillor Schubert?
Yeah, thanks, I will. Thank you. That the council, 1, adopt the terms of reference for the Greater Shepparton Positive Ageing Advisory Committee as attached. 2, adopt the terms of reference for the Greater Shepparton Disability Advisory Committee as attached.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Saley. I second that motion.
Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, just a couple of comments, please, Mayor Saley. It's good to see the terms of reference now are being updated every 2 years. And I'm given to understand, and I think they've met that criteria, that they are designed to reflect current sector practices in governance and operation. So I think it's great that those terms of reference have been updated, and we're now doing it every 2 years rather than 3.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Saley. I certainly support the changes that have been made to the terms of reference for consistency, efficiency and even more transparency in regards to that. I have been in the previous council on the Positive Ageing Advisory Committee, and I've met with a number of the members from the Disability Advisory Committee as well. These are probably some of the most committed, some of the most passionate and most meaningful members that we have on our advisory committees. What we can do to streamline and to make the processes even more efficient and relevant for them is all for the better.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? For the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Just very briefly, and starting with an apology, Councillor Schubert, I just missed it for some reason. Yeah, obviously these are greatly important committees for our council. Councillor Schubert sits as the councillor rep on the Positive Ageing, and I sit as the councillor rep on the Disability Advisory Committee. And each of us have spoken with our committees and understood them to be true and supported terms of reference updates. So happy to support them. Terms of reference are important. The committees themselves are deeply valuable, but they also must have good boundaries and good guidelines to support them and surround them. So I'm very happy to support these today.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Page 19, item 10.1, Draft Revenue and Rating Plan 2025 to 2029. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'll move this. Revenue and, that the council, one, endorse the draft revenue and rating plan 2025-2029 as attached. Release the draft revenue and rating plan 2025-2029 to the community for feedback pursuant to council's community engagement policy for a period commencing on the 28th of April 2025 and concluding on the 16th of May 2025. And note that any feedback will be considered prior to presenting the revenue and rating plan 2025-2029 for adoption by council on the 26th of June 2025.
Bit nervous there. I thought you were going to add the municipal charge.
No, I
Got through that. Very good, councillor. I accept that motion. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, councillor Reddy. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to move this because it's a draft and it's still going out for community feedback. And regardless of whether I agree with everything in this plan, I really must commend the staff wading through all our questions and putting this together. And I can confidently say that councillors have been comprehensively briefed. And I'd also like to commend all the new councillors because it's a lot of stuff and they've studied a huge range of material, have confidently contributed to discussions, and I think that's great. This particular plan doesn't address how much rates we collect, but it does address how the rates will be distributed through the community. And based on this draft, it seems that continuity has been the main focus because there hasn't been too many changes. I actually find rates quite interesting, particularly how if we change one sector, it impacts all the other sectors. But unfortunately, that interest is rarely shared by the community. Everyone's interested in rates and how they impact their bottom line, but the voices usually speak up after the decisions have been made and rates notices are already issued. So this is the opportunity right here. The plan's going out. It'll be on our website for just over 2 weeks. If you feel commercial rates are too high, please let us know. If you feel the cultural and recreation rate is unnecessary, please make that known. Or if you feel the municipal charge is unfair, now is the time to tell us. And in case you're not aware of what that is, the municipal charge is a flat fee levied against all properties to offset the rates of higher paying properties. So local government is the only organisation that I've encountered where skimming off the bottom to feed the top is perfectly legal. About 50% of Victorian councils apply this charge. Our municipal charge has been in place for well over a decade, probably multiple decades, and there's not enough support to remove it before it goes out to consultation, which is understandable. It would take an exceedingly brave council to remove it entirely because it does impact a lot of people's bottom line from the top end. And I'm confident that all councillors understand the function of the charge, particularly the point it does not increase our revenue, but rather redistributes the rating burden. From my perspective, removing that charge would offer real rate relief for most residential properties and would mean higher value properties will pay their fair share, and we can double with the amount that commercial industrial pay so that it can be evened out if we do decide to get rid of it. I'm more than happy with the process that got us to this point, and I will respect the democratic decision once it comes back after consultation.
Very good, councillor Summer. Councillor Reddy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, I think councillor Summers covered that quite extensively, so
Would any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Councillor Summer is absolutely right. There is a lot of stuff, an awful lot of stuff to get over in regards to revenue and rating plan, and I commend the finance team that have been able to present that to us in a user-friendly fashion. It is only a draft, and there's a draft on the revenue and rating framework by which this council will operate, and if adopted over the next 4 years. It has been put forward for 3 weeks for public consultation, and I like Councillor Summer, encourage those that are interested in this to please provide some feedback. I'm most interested in seeing some constructive comments that can enhance the plan or even give an alternative suggestion. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Brophy. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Akers.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Yes, I'd like to speak in favour. I mean, we are up for a community consultation, and I mean, we've had consulted with the community bringing this to council also as to what is the best way forward. But, you know, let the community be assured that all councillors have been through this extensively over the last 4 months, and this is the plan that we think best suits Greater Shepparton at this point in time. So we've considered all the options, and this is the way that we as a council are recommending that we move forward.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Akers. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? No, nothing else. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, page 26, item 10.2, contracts awarded under delegation, March 2025. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
Thank you. I will move that the council, 1, note the contracts awarded under delegation pursuant to a formal procurement process for the reporting period, and 2, note the requests for tender advertised but not yet awarded.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Second, Councillor Summer. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, it's a very short report today. As we approach the end of the financial year, it will get shorter. I'm sure a number of people have had the letter in their mailbox regarding the floor level survey. I got mine just recently also. Just noting, they will only come up to your front door. They will give full identification for why they are there. Very trustworthy, very necessary. But yeah, this is purely just the transparency of what has been awarded in the previous month.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. It is a bit lean on the bone, only 2 or 3 in there. Yeah, we have been told that it's because of the end of financial year. I do get a bit nervous because there was a very long period under the last CEO where we didn't get anything for months and months. We weren't told, whereas I really value this. I find it really transparent and it shows us what's coming up. It's all under delegation, so councillors aren't deciding. It just shows us things are working like clockwork in the background based on the policies that we set. So I'll be looking forward to checking this in future, and hopefully there's a few more than 3 coming up, regardless of the financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? I'll just touch on the first item regarding the floor survey, which obviously Councillor Spinks highlighted. Although it's one of a very few that are on there, that is really important for us at the moment because as a lot of community would be well aware, we're right up against it with insurance companies across the municipality, and this type of groundwork, pardon the pun, actually allows us to be better informed and advocate from council on behalf of our community to better be informed around appropriate levels and making sure that if that information is and when it's available can be shared with the broader audience, that we can make sure that when insurance companies are having those conversations with relevant community members that they can get access to this information and push back against a bit of a blanket coverage that is in front of us at the moment. So I commend the council in attracting some funding to have this work done and getting it completed. It puts us ahead of other cities that perhaps haven't been as proactive, and ensures that if and when we're faced with those disasters that we experienced in 22, that we can be better informed and support community on knowing exactly where water should and shouldn't go at that particular time. So well done on getting that work undertaken. If there's nothing else regarding this matter, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, page 28, item 10.3, S5, instrument of delegation by council to the Chief Executive Officer. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I will move the recommendation as a motion as it is printed on page 28 of the agenda.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Reddy.
Sally, I'd like to move that we lay it on the table.
Councillors, for that to take place, we'll have to go to a vote. So we're just voting now whether you want to lay that on the table. Do you have specific or just to the next ordinary council meeting?
Next ordinary council meeting.
Okay, councillors, all those in favour of laying the motion on the table? Is that your hands up?
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, okay. Motion laid on the table. Okay, councillors, we now go to item 10.4 on page 31, S6, instrument of delegation by council to members of council staff. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Spinks.
We're talking today. Okay, I will move item 10.4. I'll move the recommendation as a motion as it is printed on page 31 of the agenda.
Councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second that myself.
Thank you, Councillor Reddy. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, so the item previous and the one that we're talking about now is how the council, with a capital C that sits around this table, delegates a certain amount of money that decisions can be made under to the CEO, which was what was just sat on the table, so it will lay on the table until next month and then be decided again, once more information has been gathered. And then for this item is how the Chief Executive Officer can then delegate throughout the council, beyond into the council organisation. And the purpose of that is so that the everyday functions of council can continue, and that not every single decision comes to the council table, because quite frankly, council would cease to function. So every, I believe, 6 months we see this come in, so it becomes a bit of a tick and flick, but for the purpose of, I didn't read out the motion, so I'll just have that little bit of context. Basically, it just is checked over to see if there's been any legislative requirements, to see if there's been any changes to the documents, and we set our eyes across it and make sure we're still comfortable with it. In that, I am comfortable. This item, just to clarify again, is the CEO's, the delegation from CEO down to, and I'm comfortable with the review that has been done, and we're approving it and supporting it today. Thank you.
Ready?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally. Straightforward.
Councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillors like to speak for the motion? No. Councillors will go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 34, item 10.5, S18, Instrument of Subdelegation Environment Protection Act 2017. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillors.
I'll go to the trifecta. So I would like to move as a motion, the recommendation as a motion as it is printed on page 34 of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor like to second that, please? Councillor Reddy?
Sally.
Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
So briefly explaining this one, this is the Instrument of Subdelegation for the Environment Protection Act. There are certain council staff within the organisation that have specific roles and duties that need specific authorisation. And so this document allows that specific delegation of authority and duty that has to be done. It's a required delegation. Not anyone can do it. So fell apart at the end there, but anyway, that's the point of that. So happy to support it today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Reddy.
And again, I think it's well covered by councillor.
Not well covered.
I'll just sit here and let her do all the hard work.
Councillor Reddy, are there any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillors like to speak for the motion? No. Councillor will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Page 37, item 10.6, March 2025 Q3 forecast review. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Q3 forecast. Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I put forward the following recommendation that the council endorse the 2024-2025 Q3 forecast review as attached.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Thank you. Councillor Akers. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, look, thank you, Mayor Sally. This is the third quarter, so we're rounding the bend in the straight in the Melbourne Cup. We've got 1 quarter to go, and what it does give us is that a really good snapshot of where we are. When we look at it under our operating position in year to date, you get really excited. It says the year to date actual adjusted underlying result is a surplus of $24.4 million. Which is really great. It looks fantastic. But then you read on a little bit further and it actually brings you back to reality, because it's all point in time. And of course the real change in regards to that is that the third quarter here gives you a forecast adjusted. So what it will look like come the end of the fourth quarter, and that will be an underlying result expected to be a deficit of $5.7 million, which is from the second quarter, a decline of $2.25 million. Now, that unfavourable movement we've seen is a couple of things, but in particularly an unexpected decrease in the user fees due to the lower utilisation of council childcare facilities, which people are using the facilities all around the place, but due to staff shortages, we can't accommodate the demand that's there to be able to pick up that particular increase in fees. And also a reduction in the asset inspection activities, again caused by staff shortages. There are shortages across the board, and particularly in key areas. So that impacts us in the bottom line as well. What I was pleased to see is obviously I always look at the liquidity ratio, which is extremely high. It's 185%, which is an increase of 21% on the previous second quarter. What it basically means is that we can cover our debts, not only once, but we can cover it by 1.85% of that. Yep. So pleasing, not great with that movement, but hopefully the fourth quarter will come home with the biggies.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, I think Councillor Brophy's covered it pretty well. I mean, obviously, we've got to, recognise our staff shortages that are impacting on the bottom line, but it's healthy enough. And I guess our liquidity position very strong, but probably a reflection of pushing a couple of projects forward into the next financial year. So that's something we'll monitor going forward as well, but a strong financial position at this point.
Like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Any councillors will go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, page 41, item 11.1, Asia Fruit Logistica 2024-2025. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. I put forward the following recommendation: that the council note the outcomes of the Greater Shepparton City Council's attendance at the Asia Fruit Logistica Hong Kong 2024, to approve the hosting of a trade stand at Asia Fruit Logistica and supporting activation opportunities as deemed appropriate in 2025 in partnership with Fruit Growers Victoria, and 3, approve the Mayor and the CEO or Chief Executive Officer or an executive representative to be included in the delegation for 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Schubert. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, look, thank you, Mayor Sarley. Look, we're not the food bowl for nothing, and when you have a look at some of the exports that we've done from this particular region at the moment, 46% of apples that exported are grown here in the Golden Valley. In 2022, that equates to nearly 1,500 tonnes of apples that go overseas. We're also looking at the plums, 50% of the exports, again, coming from the Golden Valley, and you go on to cherries and 28%. So the economy really derives itself very strongly in the horticultural field. The Council's president at Asia Logistica in 2024 was instrumental in achieving the outcomes for our particular region. To have the profile of the Mayor there, the CEO, brings the trading actions and how valued that is by and the relationships by all the other nations that are there. A lot of people hold that in high esteem, that if we have our civic leaders there in present at this particular stand, it means an awful lot to them, and they take it very seriously on what we're actually wanting to export. There is a cost to bear, but the returns on the investment regionally make this a very worthwhile exercise beneficially to our exporters. It is a partnership with fruit growers, and it's a long-standing one, and I certainly endorse the recommendation put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
I just endorse what Councillor Brophy has just stated, but I think it's important to note there's more, the largest commodity, agriculturally what we produce, but the largest commodity produced is fruit, which accounts for about $350 million worth. So I think it's well worth us having an active involvement in the Asia sort of presence in Asia. Absolutely.
Councillor Schubert. Any other councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? No, I'll just, councillor, to the motion.
To the motion.
Councillor Sphinx.
I'm supportive of it, but I just always will take the opportunity to say that I question this one, and I question whether it's just whether it should be us supporting doing this work and doing this role. There's no question that agriculture, that fruit is important to our region, and that support is to be offered. But I always just wonder, there are overarching bodies that support industries, and whether it should be us that is taking on this sort of lead role in this particular delegation. I continue to be assured that our support for Fruit Growers Victoria is essential. that going to the Asia Fruit Logistica, because there are multiple ones that happen around the world, but that going to this particular one is the most important and the best bang for our buck. And also that it is essential for the mayor to go, as they hold the role in very high esteem in being over there. So I continue to be assured that it is a worthwhile expedition and that the money is being well spent and is well needed. But I also continue to just ask, are there other ways that we can find more sustainable ways of funding this expedition? Are there ways that we can step back and support more leading players in this field to take on these roles? Is it still right for us to be at the front? Today, the answer to that would appear to be yes. I'm happy to support it, but I think it's important to just keep asking those questions. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer?
Yes, when this first came up and we started doing these delegations, I was into mines. What got me over the line is the modest price tag. It's less than $30,000 for us to go and advocate on behalf of people who are really building up this region and propping up industry. And it actually works. We've even received late email correspondence with some detail that can't be shared because it's commercial in confidence. But it's nice to see that detail because it does prove that the small amount that we put in definitely gets bang for the buck of the greater economy of Greater Shepparton.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Troffel?
Thanks, Mayor Sally. Seeing the figures and what underpins this area as far as the fruit industry goes, also lends to the abundance of water that we need for the fruit industry. So it adds weight to what we actually do. So I can see, a benefit in what's going on. Also, probably on the world stage, as far as tariffs and bits and pieces, we don't know of our future there. So dealing with some of these bigger partners who can take the volumes of fruit that we sort of produce around here is probably pretty important to us too, to keep those relationships up. So yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Troffel. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? I'll just commend Anthony Nicolacci and his team, obviously under the economic development team, who work closely with Mick Gracera from Fruit Growers Victoria to basically facilitate this delegation that's been ongoing for a number of years. I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Sam Spinks that post you review and you determine whether this is the most appropriate form of engagement and getting our products on the world stage. And quite frankly, if Fruit Growers Victoria weren't able to facilitate a grant to offset some of their costs, I mean, it's probably obvious that we wouldn't have been able to go. So appropriate due diligence is undertaken to determine the viability and the need for us to be there, whether it's yearly or every second year, or if other opportunities present. So I think enough positive reasons have been set around the table, but we constantly review this and make sure that we just don't do it for the sake of doing it, that it does provide those outcomes that we're seeking when we get over there and maximise the 3 days that we're in attendance. So if nothing else, councillors, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried on opposed. Item 11.2 on page 47, international engagement policy. There is a recommendation. Can I have the council put that forward as a motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Put forward the recommendation that the council adopt the international engagement policy as attached.
Can I have the council second that motion? Councillor Spinks.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Look, the international engagement policy was first adopted back in 2017. This is updating that, and really it outlines a blueprint on how locally we enact globally. What we have is a federal government that was established 125 years ago, and really their own avenue was for foreign affairs and trade, and that's what they do very, very well. And that all works well, but this particular policy highlights a few key areas that the other ones haven't got. One is a sister city and friendship agreements, delegations and business visits, invitations to international cities, and also maintaining those current sister city relationships and friendship relationships that we do have. So I certainly endorse this policy. Sometimes you look at it and say, is it worth having an extra policy? Well, I think this underlies that we do have a strong relationship with a number of cities around the globe.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Only to share that it's not really a super active thing that we pursue or that takes up a lot of time. But it is always important to have a policy that sets really good guidelines and structure around this sort of partnership, I suppose. So that's really what this policy is. I'm happy to support it. It's a good, thorough, well-considered policy.
Thank you, councillors. Before we do that, can we get a couple more seats for members of the audience? Sorry, just before gallery, I should say, before we resume. Don't want to make you guys stand. Thank you. Thanks, Jack. So, okay, councillors, picking up.
Cameras now.
Yeah, we might. Sorry, Peter, if we just go back. Yeah. Sorry, guys. We're all good? Okay, thank you. So picking up where we were, which is now asking councillors if anyone would like to speak against the motion. Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Simon.
Thank you. I would like to see some evaluation on how this is travelling. The one in here that I'm interested in is the international student placement opportunities, but I'm not aware of any links to that particular action and how many, if any, have come here or how many have gone there. So that's interesting to me. I'd like to know what's actually eventuated from this plan. And I'm also wondering if perhaps for future reference, invitation to international cities is a little bit restrictive on our criteria. We might be missing some opportunities there if we have to fulfil all of these hoops. I just think we'll probably need some more discussion on how it's travelling.
Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No, councillors, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Unopposed. Councillors, item 11.3 on page 51, Public Infrastructure Works Policy. You might have seen CEO Gary get up and just seek some clarification, because I just want to get an understanding from you, Gary, that laying the previous motion or the S5 delegation on the table, does that impact this Public Infrastructure Works Policy?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Sali. Through you, I'll seek a clarification from our governance team and Director Corporate, Chris Teitzel. It is our understanding that it doesn't impact for council to make the determination on item 11.3, Public Infrastructure Works Policy. And I would just outline the importance of this report is merely to align the delegations of this policy with the S5 delegations that currently still exist without even the adoption of the item 10.3.
So
Point of clarification. I was told that the policy doesn't actually stipulate specifics around the it just refers to that policy. That's correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not clear about the question.
If I can't answer you, that's all right.
So the policy, so my understanding is that the public infrastructure was to be streamlined, policy was to be streamlined to align specifically to the S5, because we haven't done that. This policy.
But it would be streamlined to the S5 that we already have in place, which
is only the million,
which is up to $1 million to the CEO.
Correct.
The financial delegation of up to $1 million. So
yeah,
that is correct.
But the public infrastructure policy that sits now, is there a figure aligned to that?
There's a figure that currently sits within the current version of the policy, and with the adoption of this policy, it will then align to the current S5, which is $1 million. Up until a decision is made at a future council meeting at S5.
okay.
Yeah. So we're clear on that? Okay. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Spinks.
I'll move that the council adopt the Public Infrastructure Works Policy as attached.
Can I have a councillor second that motion? Can I have someone second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yep, so I actually found that a good way of explaining. So basically what's happening is the public infrastructure works policy as a whole is being adopted today. But the main point in it is that in the public infrastructure works policy, it currently outlines the figure of the delegated amount, and then we have a policy that approves the delegated amount. But if we ever change the delegated amount, we then have to go back and also change the policy because the number's in it. But what we're wanting to do today is tidy up the public infrastructure works policy so that it just aligns with the policy, delegation policy, without a figure attached, so that whatever changes may or may not occur in that policy, we don't have to go and update two at the same time. This is really, it's really just tidying it up so that the public infrastructure works policy doesn't need to be changed every time the CEO delegation policy changes. So that's really the main thing that's being tidied up here. The plan more broadly has no changes that I understand, and I'm happy to support it today.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
I agree with Councillor Spinks. I have total confidence in the bureaucracy of our council.
Very good, Paul. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Okay, councillors, we'll all go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 54, item 11.4, adoption of on-site waste water management plan. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Can I get a mover? Councillor Summer.
I'll move that the council adopt the on-site wastewater management plan to attached.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, this was surprisingly interesting. I hadn't actually seen a wastewater management plan before, and I was quite shocked by how widespread they are. If we're ever in Armageddon, we know how to manage water. I think it's fabulous. So I won't go into all the boring details here, but if anyone does have an on-site wastewater facility, this is how they'll need to manage it in the future in terms of environmental benefit and efficiency, I suppose. So yeah, it was really interesting. And this one did go out to consultation, I believe. Yeah, and we're actually going to adopt it.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Sarley. Yes, we have a very diverse community in Greater Shepparton, and there are a lot of different communities impacted by the wastewater management plan. There's also a lot of work being done in the background, obviously, to try and help some of those communities to hook into town sewerage, which is exciting for those smaller communities. So yeah, must commend the council on the power of work and consultation they've done to continue to work with communities on this important area of public health and infrastructure.
Good. Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? All right, councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried on. Councillors, page 69, agenda item 5, Darrengold future options. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
Thank you. I'd like to move that the council, 1, note the Darrengold Estate Options Assessment Report. 2, note the significant challenges that the community use restriction has on any purchase during the first right of refusal process. 3, withdraw the tentative expression of interest to the first right of refusal process to purchase the Darrengold estate. And 4, support where possible and outside of the first right of refusal process, suitable private investment opportunities that could benefit the region.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please?
I second that motion.
I might, sorry, just, yeah, Councillor Akers. Sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry, Councillor Akers, are you choosing to uphold that conflict?
Yep.
Okay,
So they've got to put me in the holding room, haven't they?
Pete, do we take care of that, Pete, from our end? Put him in the waiting room? Yeah. All good? Good to me? Very good, thank you. Sorry, councillor Spinks.
I've moved it.
With the motion, can I have a councillor second that motion?
Second that motion, councillor Sally.
Thank you, councillor Murphy. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. So this may seem quite new to the community, but we've been discussing it for the past 4 months. And it's gotten a little bit, I would argue, bigger than it should be. It started with obviously the state government chose to cease using the Durangall estate as a prison, and it has become suddenly available on the market. And we were approached by a community group that had interest in seeing it developed into their aspiration, and they asked to see if there was an opportunity to extend the timeline for the first right of refusal. And that's kind of where this started. But we've now got to the point where, and I don't agree that council originally put in the expression of interest to the first right of refusal process. That was done without a formal decision like this. It happens what appears to be operationally. But what I think it's done is created some expectation within community that should have been dealt with at a formal decision right at the start. Ultimately, where we're now sitting is that it's proposed that council purchase the Durangall estate to then possibly turn it into whatever the future of it may be. And my position is that I do not support this. And I do not support it because the initial figures that have come back, just straight off the bat, the initial figures that have come back is that it's going to cost 2.5 million to buy, another 3 million to repair the heritage buildings that are there, 400,000 ongoing to maintain the property, and then miscellaneous other costs. And my reasoning that I feel very comfortable sitting with in not supporting us pursuing the purchase of the estate is that at no point has council had an aspiration, a direction, or a strategic justification to pursue the purchase of a new asset. For the proposal on the table is an equine centre, but it's not about the equine centre, it is about any, whatever the purpose might be. We are working in a very financially difficult time. We are working in a time that is difficult to maintain the current assets that we have. We have our own priority assets that have been many years in the making that we have to continue to focus on and have as the priority. And I very much understand that this is a unique opportunity, that this parcel of land was not available, that it was not really ever, I don't think anyone thought it ever would be available. And so I do allow that due diligence has been done in that we have done an initial options assessment, which is a very short, quick piece of work to see if there is viability in any sort of project happening on it. And while it may seem that it has come back with a positive light, that is a long-term piece of work. And the reality is we've done nothing in that direction because we've had no interest in going in that direction. We've had no strategic justification to push us in that direction. To move forward, would commit us to doing many more reports, which would, I expect, cost many more dollars. We do not have that information because, again, we have not had any interest in pursuing this direction. And so I cannot today sit here and commit council to spending what could equate to 7, if not more, and that's looking at 2.5 plus the 3 plus at least a couple of years to do the investigative work required, 7 million just to get to a point where we can start exploring what this would look like to build on this site. And then further to that, I know that there has been a suggestion that, well, if it's not viable, if we just explore it for a little while, then maybe we can just sell it off. It's a great piece of land, we can get our money back and it'll all wash out and come out in the wash. But if it can be just sold off, which I don't agree with, then we should be letting state let it go to public market. Council at no point had to get involved in this. This is simply a first right of refusal from a state asset and a state process. Right now, that parcel of land is their responsibility to make sure that they do what is best for our community, for the state's community with that piece of land and with that heritage site. We do not and should not get involved because the moment we step near it, we carry all responsibility and all risk. And we're seeing that even in that we're on the headlines today for something we hadn't even discussed. The moment local government goes near it, we have to take on the full risk and the full responsibility of it. And as far as I'm concerned, we each sit here and we have a role to make strong and stable decisions that are based in good governance and good long-term strategic justification. And this proposal does not have any of that. So I cannot support it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Yes. And I hope I don't repeat a lot of what you've said there, Councillor Spinks. What is this opportunity that has been presented? You know, what has actually happened? Well, the state government last year decommissioned the Durrangole prison as a correctional facility. It meant job losses. It meant loss of businesses to not only the locals, but also to the wider reaching into Shepparton and beyond. Loss of income within the community and also loss of the community within the region. I've inspected the site and I have read substantially the history of the site as well. What is before us is the Durrangole estate. It's a heritage listed historic mansion, some disused accommodation facilities, substantial agricultural land and amenities supporting farming. The state government decided to offload it, not invest in it, not seek open expressions of interest in the commercial sense or in an educational sense or even in an entrepreneurial sense, but instead a fire sale, if you like. Why come to us? Why not go commercially or in a partnership? I believe that there are more than ourselves who may have the first right of refusal, and they are maybe perhaps other government utilities who are looking at this as well. But unknown costs are in the purchase. In maintenance or the upgrades and that we have here is the state government really cost shifting and the responsibility to potentially onto local government and to just then walk away. No financial contribution by them that has been put forward today. There is a caveat over the purchase that if bought for approximately, and we really don't know the exact amount that the state government have provided to set a purchase price, but approximately $2.5 million. And with a water right, that could be maybe $3 million included there. The caveat means that we cannot run the facility as a commercial venture to make money on this. Some are saying it's a gold mine, but with the tight restrictions on us on taking on the expressions of interest, we cannot do it commercially. It is about as viable, I think, as viable as a prize-winning racing greyhound with only 3 legs. To lift that caveat, we are informed that then the property would be then on commercial market value. Without a valuation, we would receive the purchase price in excess of $10 million. Now that is just the purchase price, let alone the maintenance of the 259-acre property, let alone the 24-hour security of the property, conservatively ongoing of over $500,000 a year. The historic mansion alone is estimated to require $3 million to repair and upgrade. That is before we even have developed anything. To equate the commercial cost of the property of $10 million would mean a cost to each household in Greater Shepparton of around $334 just for the purchase. Would ratepayers accept a Durrangole levy to be added to their rates, or would they prefer council to cut back on services like childcare, road maintenance or drainage to facilitate the purchase? I know that they've used Tamworth facility as a highlight, and it's a great facility that brings in economic benefits, and I'm sure that it does, as does the Country Music Festival up there as well. However, they are about to embark on an upgrade that is required in the order of $48 million. Unless they can raise money via the state or federal government, their ratepayers will be footing the bill if approved. I genuinely feel for the Durrangole community and that of Greater Shepparton, who've borne the brunt of the closure by the state government and acknowledge the lobbying and the commitment of those within the Durrangole Revitalisation Group. I've weighed up the report commissioned, which included a number of options. I have been present at the meetings and briefings and have discussed this proposal put to us by the state government. I'm not risk adverse, we need to carry risk, but not at the cost of ratepayers that would throw us already under our inherited budget into free fall. And I'm guided by a principle here, the Local Government Act of 2020, and the government's principles Number 9, G, is the ongoing financial viability of council to be ensured. I do maintain that we do advocate for the site at Durrangale Estate.
Thank you, councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Oh, sorry, councillor Summer had her hand up, or do you want to go first, or councillor
Want me to go first?
Summer?
All right. Also, before I start, I want to foreshadow a motion.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to set my timer so I know I'm not over time. At the same time that we're considering agriculture, horticulture to be the primary focus of our council plan, this option to purchase Durrangale at a significantly discounted rate has dropped in our laps. I believe this is a serendipitous, rare opportunity that can't be missed. Yet here we have a recommendation that says we do not proceed. And I understand we might have multiple big projects on the go, but the phrase, make hay while the sun shines, has merit when discussing once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. If we do not proceed with the EOI process and allow Durrangale to go to open market, it will likely become unaffordable. If we allow another organisation to purchase the site, there is a real risk it will be closed to community forever and the heritage value will not be preserved. This site is strategically placed between Murchison and Tatura, which benefits small towns. And there's plenty of money in equine, and that vision is being driven by strong, prominent women in our community who are experts in their field. Durrangale will fill the gap in our visitation strategy for multi-night stays and complement the success of Dairy Week at Tap Park. We have bugger all heritage left in this region, yet this site tells a long story about displaced English orphans, prisoners of war camps, Furphy connections, and most recently, a prison. For those of you thinking there isn't enough interest in the community, you are mistaken. This is evidenced by 400 tickets to the Durrangale tour that sold out in, I'm told, 2 hours. About 60 stragglers still came along without a ticket and many more missed out. We've had numerous stakeholders contact us, and there are people in the gallery today passionate enough to be here in person to try and sway us towards some common sense. Some councillors seem stuck on the caveat that stipulates the site can't make a profit. However, feedback from state indicate they are flexible on this clause and money raised can go back into improving the facility. I might remind councillors we are not a profit-driven entity. If profit was our focus, the only thing left standing would be the sale yards because everything else runs at a financial loss. To push the point, no sporting facilities, no playgrounds, public toilets, kindergartens, libraries, swimming pools, or even roads. To alleviate the concerns of whether or not it makes money, the mansion itself is worth more than the current $2.5 million asking price. I bet Councillor Brophy himself said it's probably about over $10 million, which would get that money back even if we did invest. By proceeding, we inherit the mansion, extensive stabling, 600 acres of prime land. In the unlikely event we find it's not feasible to proceed, we can recoup our investment and more by paying a fee to lift the no profit caveat for a private sale. It makes sense from a business perspective. The acquisition is a win-win. It should be a no-brainer. There's plenty of money in equine that is untapped with our current resources. Locals need to travel out of town to spend their money because Greater Shepparton has no capacity to host even standard competition. And we are quite happy to fund upgrades to an existing basketball stadium, but not invest in basic infrastructure for a more lucrative sport for a lot less money, with plenty of achievable government grants at our fingertips. We know Werribee is landlocked. Tap Park is ridiculously small. The Pony Club is encroached by the trotting track. Equestrian is pushed to the back of the sports precinct. And as stated, Tamworth is the gold standard of equine activity and generates $17 million for their local economy each year. And I'm not suggesting we directly compete with Tamworth from the outset, but we can begin by gradually consolidating local equine clubs and setting them up for their individual needs. In the meantime, we can offer accommodation and event spaces for weddings, rodeos, hot air balloons or concerts to recoup maintenance costs. Rome was not built in a day, but all these side projects will help Durrangale shape into a unique and valued community asset that may one day hold national significance. So I believe this is short-sighted, and I'm sorry to say, but it feels like it harkens back to days when decisions were made behind closed doors by people who may not have had all the information. We skipped consultation and went straight to a decision, and this is in record time. I'm sure staff have great intentions, but the council is the elected officials. We're not voted in to simply follow the recommendation status quo. Our role is to align the council with community expectations, and this is a prime example of when we should step in. So despite any commiserative tones we've been hearing, this recommendation is not a done deal. We make this decision today as councillors, and we must own the backlash of that decision. The public does not easily forget, and there's a perception that council's both dragging our heels on information and being very hasty and saying no. I'm really struggling to understand why we'd go against the recommendation in our consultant report, and sincerely hope it's not because equine is predominantly a female sport, because that could mean most councillors are not necessarily hearing about it in their circles. I've seen this council make a lot of questionable decisions over the years, so let's not add Durrangall to that list. We spent upwards of $70 million on an art gallery that few people wanted, based on projected economic outputs that arguably did not eventuate. Durrangall, however, cannot lose. We need to get behind something the public actually wants and vote this recommendation down.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillor Schubert.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Sally. Fellow councillors, I oppose this motion on page 61 of our council papers. The Victorian Government announced the closure of Durrangall on the 24th of June 2024. The site officially closed on August 31st. Where 160 jobs and 25 million in economic value was lost. I believe council has a responsibility to take sufficient time to work through ways to replace its value to the community. And we locally do not have a good history of maintaining our heritage buildings. If Durrangall is lost, that part of our heritage is actually gone. I cannot support the specific motion before us on page 61. Let me explain why. First, the backlash from our community if we withdraw the tentative expression of interest will be severe. The council needs to take more time to work through this matter with the community. Secondly, I'm not here to argue we have a need to purchase Durrangall or spend any more monies. Rather, I urge you to heed the advice of our independent consultants to look into the merit of the use cases, engage with the community, both private and public stakeholders, to take our time to make the decision. We cannot be in a rush. No way. Nor should we be. This cannot be a swift process. It was okay for council to take over 5 years in planning for its basketball stadium. It took 22 years of planning for GB Link. The Princess Park redevelopment took over 3 years. The Margaret Street pumps in Tatura at a value of around about the same $2.2 million took over 2 years. But in this instance, after our first briefing and receiving Urban Enterprise report, we are being rushed to make a decision in 3 to 4 weeks. Again, why? A quick decision in the case of Durrangall is misguided, in my opinion. Why the rush? Well, procedural justice is one of the most important values we have in this democratic process. When I map out it's been less than 4 months from deciding to investigate the option to turning it down, I cannot see any procedural justice, and my constituents cannot see it either. In fact, a big reason for me being elected was to produce equitable outcomes for the people who do not live in Shepparton. Some local residents have stated to me that they believe we only listen to ourselves, and if Durrangall was in Shepparton, the council would have voted to express an interest and or purchase Durrangall. I want to prove them wrong by opposing the motion today. Simply put, my legacy needs to reflect my and my constituents' values. Let me outline reasons for my opposing the motion. The report's findings. Urban Enterprise report is unbiased and evaluates the potential use initially. Management seems to assert that the property is only a liability when we have not even ascertained if there are public, community or public-private partnership options which we could utilise. Only last week, a local entrepreneur signalled his interest in discussing commercial and community uses. 2, Urban Enterprise assessment of further work needs to be done on the matter, but on the balance of property, on balance, benefits outweigh risks. The purchase of the site presents the opportunity for a substantial long-term strategic community and economic asset for Greater Shepparton. It is Urban Enterprises' view that the long-term community and economic benefits outweigh the financial risks associated with purchasing the site. Through careful planning, many of those financial risks may be mitigated, which is on page 51. On page 47, and this is the point I'm harping about, they say further work is required to assess the feasibility of uses. Point 3, the idea that the community benefit clause could stop us from developing it commercially or otherwise. From my understanding, the ministers have already preempted this by flagging they would consider waiving such obligations. Rushing to close this case in the face of rising community expectations that council acts fiscally responsible, diversifies its income sources and stretches our council dollar even further is counterintuitive. So I ask again, why are we not following the recommendations made and taking the time to plan this carefully, but instead of councillors rushing to make a decision today? But these are all arguments of logic. Let us all pay attention to how the community must feel that they, at best, receive the uploaded Urban Enterprise report on Thursday from the council website, and on Tuesday we move on the matter. That is effectively given the Easter holidays less than one working day to digest what the report has found and what we should do. Realistically, we need 6 to 12 months to explore the merits of all options, consult the community, commercial and other public-private partnership models, and engage with the ministers on the flexibilities which are on the table. We do not know who else is interested and what else should be considered. Let us not pretend that local, state and federal governments are the only investors for Durangale. I therefore unequivocally oppose the motion on page 61. If council lets this opportunity pass, this historic site could be lost to the local community forever, and I believe we would have failed as a council. I urge you to support me in this matter so the community's expectations of us are once again, they're not disappointed. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Wickham.
I suppose time is the issue, and it would be nice to be given more time. I see this opportunity as a chance to build bridges between local council, state, federal government, agriculture, visitor economy. The list goes on. An opportunity for the youth of the community to take pride in a historical mansion in Durangale, and also connect to all the other historical aspects throughout Greater Shepparton. With Anzac Day coming up on Friday, to quote, it may be a bridge too far, but I think in moving forward to exploring the opportunities with GB Link, with the opportunities at Durangale, it may actually give us an opportunity to progress a second river crossing. So to create more bridges is probably my plea to those here in the room.
Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Sorry, Councillor Truffle, yep.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So listening to the other councillors, it's been a really interesting subject over the last few weeks, which has been good, and I understand what each councillor's trying to say. As the issues sort of come to light, there's been other information coming to light also, even this report about the water that hasn't probably really been raised before. I just see this, if it's going to be a burden on the ratepayers in Shepparton on one side, if someone said you got a 99% chance of not digging up a bit of gold with that shovel, would you not dig with the shovel? You'd probably have a bit of a crack. So I would like to see what Councillor Rod Schubert said, is trying to explore if there's anything else that could come out of this. We have got people in the room who are canvassing for, as we know, people against, but it's been a really, really interesting subject. I can see both sides of things, but I wouldn't be doing probably due diligence to the people who put us here as a mouthpiece to get to a point where we explored every opportunity. We've probably got people who could come to the table and offer other interesting scenarios as to what we could do with that site. Like I said to Councillor Fern Summers here, hot air ballooning, jailhouse rock concerts, pardon the pun, things like that. So I think when you have a bit, and people ring and I've had a few discussions and they say, and it's a bit of a dream, but you don't plant a seed without having a bit of a dream. Nothing becomes anything without planting a seed. So very interesting conversation. I'm aligned with Rod on what he said. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Truffle. Before I go to Councillor Spinks for a right of reply. Oh, sorry, Councillor. Yeah.
If you don't mind, Mayor Sally, I can see both sides of this argument, and puts you in a pretty bad place trying to make a decision. But my old mother always told me, when in doubt, don't. And financially, I think this is a burden that this community shouldn't be laboured with at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Reddy. Before I go to you, Councillor Spence, there's been a number of really good points that have been raised over this period of time, not just here this afternoon, but this journey did start last July, June or July, when the announcement took us all by shock that the prison was obviously closing, and council reacted as they appropriately should, and were very proactive in facilitating a jobs expo and making sure that we were there to support those that were going to lose their job and understand how we could reconnect them with employment within our city. It was very well received, and acknowledging that people love the work that they do and they've taken up opportunities elsewhere in the same field, but they've also taken up opportunities in a different career pathway. So that was an important step. As we progress into the new year, and Councillor Spinks sort of touched on it a little bit, this is definitely not a rush process. This has been a process that has been undertaken that has effectively gone outside what we would usually do in normal circumstances. So normal circumstances, we would go through a process to say that we will undertake a feasibility study, we'll engage in thorough community consultation, we'll set this apart and put it within our strategic vision. But early on, obviously, executive and rightly so undertook a higher level report that's been presented to councillors. Where we are now, so what the decision that is in front of councillors right now is that if you want to pursue this and seek additional information, there is a cost to do that. There is a cost to get additional information. It doesn't come for free. Council cannot engage with local community groups or anyone from a private sector when you go through a feasibility study and when you undertake a business case and determine whether you do or don't want to purchase this. There may be options that you can undertake, but until you purchase it and then enter into a tender process to then determine who you may or may not partner with, it's not a deal that can be done in the back room saying we'll undertake this feasibility and then we'll hand it to you for whatever it is. There is a public and transparent process that you have to go through, and it costs money to do this. Some really good points were made around more time. Okay, there's a cost to do that. It may or may not be required at this particular point to be tabled, but you know those type of costs to undertake a feasibility study in a business case could be in excess of $200,000 to $300,000. So what you're effectively supporting is whether you want to undertake an extension and invest $200,000 to $300,000 to find out what the possibilities are. Councillor Summer made some exceptional points around a profit-making business. We're definitely not in the business to lose money. And you highlighted library, Aquamove, sports precincts, all of these ones that cost their ratepayers money. They run at a loss. And my view is no more. No more of those assets. We've made it really clear that our intention is to make sure that we can keep our current assets viable and continue to invest into existing infrastructure. Right now, this asset sits with the state government and they are very eager to get rid of it to us. Right? Very eager.
Just a point of clarification, because that's concerning. When you say no more,
well, that's
saying no more roads or playgrounds.
No existing community infrastructure pieces, so not go and buy new existing infrastructure.
So no more new playgrounds or roads.
That's not community. That's not what I'm saying. Community infrastructure. I'm saying no more, like as in Darrell. We're not going down that path of buying assets. We're reviewing our assets. We're determining the future of a lot of our assets. We're making some, resolving an asset, an existing asset. We need to determine it and resolve it. Absolutely. We're not buying new land. So that is my view, that right now there is a strong direction to our executive to tighten up, really tighten up in this immediate future that we're facing some really uncertain times regarding our financial capabilities. And then we determine what our future looks like and whether we can or can't afford to pursue this. There is a cost to pursue this. I'm not prepared to invest any more of council's money and time and resources to determine the future of Durrangol. I think at this particular point, if there's interest from community groups, if there's interest from other private sector, then they will engage through a process that will be available to them through the direct connection to the state. And item 4 says it here perfectly, which is a lot of what Councillor Schubert you're looking for, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're not suggesting we buy this.
Not at all, Mayor Saleh.
So you're agreeing that we don't buy Durrangol?
Not at this stage. All I'm asking for is a 6 to 12 months extension. In 6 months' time, I would be happy to move that motion, because at that stage we would have given all interested parties an opportunity to review, understand, Mayor.
So I'm just saying that on this point that we would, was it states here at item 4, support where possible and outside of the first right of refusal process, suitable private investment opportunities that could benefit the region. So we're going to engage in those conversations, as we should, to attract that private investment or support any community group in that connection with the state government. The reality is there's a cost to proceed from this particular point, whether it's for 6 or 12 months. What that cost is, we don't know. It could be a random guess of 200, 300,000 to undertake those feasibility and business case studies, and coming back from there, that still is going to result possibly council having to purchase this. So there is no cost evading from this component. Reality is...
Point of order, please, Mayor Saleh. The first right of refusal does not obligate us at any stage to purchase the property. It doesn't obligate us.
No, of course. Yeah, no, but to get beyond this point, executive need direction as to what they wanted, what we would like them to do, and what we would have to do would be a feasibility study and possibly a business case, and obviously an extension, and that will come at a cost. So I'm personally not prepared to support this particular matter any further, acknowledging that financial risk at this particular point is not something that I'm willing to entertain. So, right of reply, Councillor Spinks?
Yes, thank you. I think it is very well understood that this is an emotional issue. There's a lot of really passionate, enthusiastic people around this, and I think that's been very evident in this debate. I will continue to come back to, and a lot of what has been said is, I recognise that this is not about, that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, is Councillor Summers' words, that it represents an asset that we've never had an opportunity to access in this way, and that it has come upon us very quickly in the scope of things, and that it feels like it has come out of nowhere and that we're being forced to make a decision. But I pull it back to the way that we make decisions as a group, because this will happen from time to time, maybe not on this scale, maybe not with this level of community enthusiasm, but from time to time we will get thrown an idea or an opportunity, but that we are an organisation and a decision-making body that represents 70,000 people, that has a budget of $150 million a year, that has billions of dollars in assets, that has 900 employees. We cannot make decisions on whims. Absolutely no offence intended, Councillor Truffle, but I'm sure a business can hunt for the 1% chance of gold, but a council, I do not think the average community member out there wants us to go digging for gold with hard-earned money. I think that if it does not sit in a council plan, I agree, Councillor Schubert, all those projects that you've talked about did take a long time, because they're meant to. They're meant to be well and truly considered. They're meant to be strategically justified. They're meant to be in a master plan or in a document or in a business case that council decided to go in, not just hoping that it's going to work out. I've heard a lot of hope today, a lot of what ifs, a lot of could be's, a lot of might be's. But that's not how we make decisions. We don't make decisions because something might work out. If we can't back that money that our ratepayers give us, we should not be making those decisions. That is not good financial management. We have, and more than that, because it's worth pointing out, that the ward side of things, the west of the river argument, we have, Marupna has a list as long as its arm of projects they would like to see get done. Tatura needs more, currently getting a skate park, will continue to need more assets as it's a growing community. Murchison has a community house that leases their property. There is endless priorities that are already in our realm of need. And we simply do not have it upon us. There is no money in the bank to take on this new asset.
Councillor Spinks.
Thank you.
Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? Against?
Division, please, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, I was going to call for a division too, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, all those in favour? Councillor Sali, Councillor Brophy, Councillor Spinks, Councillor Eddy. Those against? Councillors Truffle, Councillor Summer, Councillor Wickham, Councillor Schubert, obviously a casting vote, and I'll maintain my position in supporting the recommendation. Motion carried. Councillors, we go to page 77 of the agenda, item 12.1, draft road management plan. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Mover. Councillor Spinks.
I will move that the Council, 1, endorse the draft road management plan to be released for public consultation from 23rd April 2025 to 20 May 2025, and 2, note that following consideration of any submissions received, the final road management plan will be presented to Council for adoption at the 24th June 2025 scheduled Council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor, second that motion, please.
I'll second that. Mayor Sali.
Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. It's difficult to move directly into a new item when you're just debated something quite emotionally charged, but this road management plan, I think, is very worth its own moment in time. When I saw this come to us in briefings, I really realised this draft road management plan could be called the pothole plan. Like, this is about how we maintain our assets. This only gets seen sort of once every council term, and it's about the way the condition requirements, the response times, the way that we manage assets, the way that we audit assets. It's a very vital piece of work, and I actually really encourage the community to have a look at it. It's some dry reading, it's not great, but it's the way that I think we genuinely can impact. We so often discuss roads and we talk about whether we think their conditions are acceptable, and it happens in a general sense, and for most of the time, we don't really think about roads until there's a pothole out front of our property or bothering us on the way to work, and that's fine and fair. But the question has to always be asked, are we doing it well enough? Are we doing it right? And this is the document that I believe has the capacity to impact that. And maybe we are, maybe it's fine. But this is the chance. We're now going to endorse it to go out for public consultation to get that feedback. And, you know, it was discussed earlier with one of the items that so often consultation happens, items go out to consultation, and they sort of fly under the radar. But this, I think, has lots of value and needs to have many eyes on it. So I encourage the community to get around it, have a look at it, and I very much endorse it being put out to public consultation today.
Good, thank you, Councillor.
Let's see, pretty dry subject. I think it's a fantastic thing we put this out to the public and get their feedback. I'd be very curious to see what they add to this or take away from it. Apart from that, I don't think there's too much more to say.
Thank you, Councillor. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillors like to speak for the motion? No, councillors will go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried on. Councillors, we go to page 1 of the agenda, item 12.2, awarding of contract 2353, design and construction of Princess Park multi-use events pavilion. There is a recommendation. Councillors, you all have the additional copy. Please put that forward for motion.
Thank you, Mayor Sali. I put forward the following recommendation: that the Council, 1, award the contract 2535, design and construction of Princess Park multi-use events pavilion to Moretto Building Proprietary Limited at a lump sum price of $4,894,970.30, including GST. And the 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute such documents as necessary to give effect to this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this is a long time coming, as been mentioned earlier in this particular meeting, and based well and truly even before the floods of October 2022. I acknowledge those in the gallery here today from the different user groups, and thank you very much for coming along. Had many plans afoot, many different designs as we sort of led in, and of course the catastrophe in October 2022 really put the Swans, the cricketers, the runners club, all the different user groups at in a tremendously difficult situation. We did finally go to an open request for tender, which was advertised in February this year and closed at the end of March, towards the end of March. The tender period was open for the 5 weeks, and we did have 6 submissions, which were received in total. 2 of them were local contractors within Greater Shepparton Municipality and 4 from outside the region. Moretto Building Proprietary Limited is a local tenderer who submitted a conforming tender, demonstrated capacity and capability to carry out the works under this contract, and submitted the lowest price and received the overall highest moderated score. What it includes the works to be completed will be the inception meeting, the detailed design, the finalised design, the construction itself, and the practical completion and occupancy of that. I think it's a great outcome, particularly for the user groups, and I pay absolute pride to the Shepparton Swans Football and Netball Club, Shepparton United Cricket Club, and of course the Runners Club, which are a part of that particular precinct as well. Finally, they'll have a community function centre there as well, as training facilities to be able to get changed. But the actual function centre means that they can actually have their Thursday night dinners indoors. They can actually come back after the games. They can actually have that rented out, so sub that out to other user groups to be able to derive income. And I'd like to say thank you to Greater Shepparton City Council and the AFL for the facility that's been temporary accommodation for the user groups, which will be sorely needed still for the duration of the build. Well done to the resilience and patience of the user groups for the sustained endurance and making the best of what was an extremely difficult situation. Well done, everyone, on that. Well done to council staff who have negotiated hard to get the best outcome available. So well done to all those involved there. I look forward to the first home game of the Swans when they can actually go into their new facility, and also the cricketers as well. So.
Very good, Councillor Brophy. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. It's great to see some of the users here. Princes Park is sort of epitomises what Greater Shepparton is. It's on the river. There's some passionate people down there that love their sport. I think good things come to those who wait, and it's exceptional to see some young female athletes here. You will be getting the facilities that you deserve and for generations to come. So thank you for all you do down there.
Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. This has been a long time coming, and I thank the user groups for their patience. I'm really happy with the design. We did get a sneak peek, and it seems that most, if not all, of the parts that were requested by user groups are going to be implemented, if not better than what was stated, which is really exciting. It's probably the biggest projects that will be happening in my ward, Yardy-Gertie ward, for the next for this whole term. So I'm really excited. And to think that we almost lost that facility was quite shocking. The fact that we've come a full circle, because we did argue the point and recognise the value of being surrounded by trees in a beautiful area this close to town, and how much that can impact your game and social skills. I mean, it's really important to have that. There's not many ovals around that have such a beautiful setting. So really happy, especially that it's been awarded to Moretto. I mean, they are a great local company. They were far and above the best tender by about 6%. So yeah, I've got every confidence that they will deliver something that the whole community is going to be super proud of.
Thank you, councillors. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillors.
Just because it was a feature of our entire last council term, and then we're finally here, which is great. I think good things do come to those who wait, but they sure did wait. So I am deeply glad that we finally got to this point. As has been mentioned, it was an issue well before the floods. We knew that the netballers had totally inadequate facilities, not at fault of the building, but it's just it's not how buildings were designed, and sport has evolved. We knew that the cricketers had no safe all abilities space for their increasingly popular all abilities rounds that they play or events that they have. We knew that the building was outdated, and then the building was destroyed. So there was no doubt that something had to give. It's been a long time coming. There's, those involved know the history. There's been so much back and forth about trying to get to this point. But I think that this has been a really good outcome and a bit of a creative way to get to this outcome. We have a lot of sporting groups that all, sporting facilities that all need upgrades, and it's hard with them all sort of competing against money and competing against each other for priority. But this one needed to be there. I'm really glad that we are finally at this point. I know that it will now move back to consultation with the user groups to make sure it's actually, the sort of final details are tweaked out to make it right for the users, which is always important. And hopefully, it's a tight timeline, but hopefully less than 18 months from now they'll all be in their new home. No more containers, no more outdoors. So this is I think it's a really exciting motion to be approving today. Very, very grateful to got to this point. Thank you.
Councillors like to speak to the motion? Before we work out this item, I want to thank the members from not only the Cricket Club and Football Netball Club that are in the gallery today. It has been obviously noted that a bit of a process to get to where we got to, but we would always eventually get there. I think that's been noted, and we appreciate your passionate advocacy, which is important in these circumstances. But there's no question that it's worth noting that when the flood hit and understanding what the future would look like down there, the obvious conversations took place around, is that the future down there for the multiple user groups that call Princess Park home? It's an important conversation that was had, and I'm very happy that we worked through those conversations to say, well, look, if we're going to build something, we're going to build something that can put us at a low risk of having a circumstance that we dealt with, obviously in 22. So, when you talk about building back, you want to make sure that you're high and dry and you don't have those circumstances arise where community infrastructure, now with no insurance cover, has water going through it. So we acknowledge that, our job is to minimise the risk and make sure that when we're investing ratepayer funds that we're doing that to the highest standard and ensuring that this meets the needs and wants of the user groups. And as Councillor Summer noted, I think the user groups will all be very pleased and look forward to you finalising all the bits and pieces that need to make up this building and getting a good local builder in Moreto Building to complete that work. And the intention is, and my personal expectation is that, you guys in particular from a football netball perspective is that you have an opportunity to get in there before seasons end next year. But I think the most important thing is that once works are undertaken and they start, that people will see that vision and what's been endorsed tonight. So thank you for your commitment and your understanding of the word process in council. It's a difficult word to accept, but we have a process and we get through it. And look, personally, I'm just happy I can go back down there and have Marie Williams smile at me and say, welcome back, because it was getting a bit difficult to walk past the canteen there at a time. So I'm very pleased to have this in play today, acknowledging that it's been in the process for a couple of years. It's an exciting opportunity and look forward to celebrating this with all the user groups once it's completed. So if there's nothing else, councillors, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried on opposed. Okay, councillors, item 13 on page 87, confidential report 13.1, designation of confidentiality of information report. The following report has been designated confidential by the Chief Executive Officer under Governance Rule 111 and in accordance with the definition of confidential information in the Local Government Act 2020 in brackets the Act. The item is Cultural Heritage Awards 2025. This document contains information which is consistent with the definition of personal information, being information which is released would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs. Item 13.2, close of meeting to members of the public. Councillors, there is a recommendation. Can I have someone move that, please? Councillor Spence.
I'll move that pursuant to section 66.
Yeah.
Do you read it out? Do I need to read it?
You need to move it.
Yeah, sorry. I'll move that the pursuant to section 66, brackets 2, close brackets, open brackets, A, close brackets, of the Local Government Act 2020, resolves that the council meeting be closed to members of the public for consideration of the following confidential item, Cultural Heritage Awards 2025.
Mayor Sally, can we have those doors closed?
Yeah, so we've got to do it first and then once they leave. So can I have someone second that?
Second that, Mayor Sally.
Ready? Councillors, all in favour? Yeah, motion carried. Thank you.
Yep.
Only the journos.
We get it done.
We've got two more.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All good, councillors. Okay, welcome back. So we go to page 88 of the agenda, 14.1 pathway agreement. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Mayor Sally.
Schubert. Did you want to read the motion, please?
Yes, I will, sorry, yeah. That the council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute a 5-year contract and licence extension with Infor Global Solutions, brackets ANZ Proprietary Limited, for a total cost of $1,649, 840.5 GST inclusive.
Thank you, councillor Schubert. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thanks. Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, look, we're transitioning to a new agreement as our current one concludes. The new agreement will mitigate pathway to a cloud-based software as a service solution, ensuring we stay current with the latest updates and receive ongoing support. And it's great to see council have negotiated a 10% discount on the cost as well. So well done.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Schubert. Councillor Spinks.
No comment, thank you.
Very good. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you. These do come at us from time to time, usually at the 11th hour, and we always accept it with no scrutiny whatsoever. I'm just wondering if we could possibly have a briefing on this. We know that it's going to take us to the cloud, but is there anything else that's going on? It's a lot of money. I mean, it's a hefty sum of money, and we haven't got much oversight over what it actually entails. So I'm wondering if we should go back to an old-fashioned filing system and save some money.
Very good. Noted. Very need to note that. So thank you, councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Okay. Right, a reply? Councillor Schubert?
Oh, it's fine, thank you. I think we've covered it well enough.
Okay, very good. Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against?
Division, please.
Okay. All those in favour? Councillor Sally, Councillor Brophy, Councillor Spinks, Councillor Eddy, Councillor Schubert, Councillor Akers, Councillor Wickham, Councillor Trelfall. Those against? Councillor Summer. Motion carried. Councillors, page 89 of the agenda, item 15.1, council activities, March 2025. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
Mayor Sally, I'd like to put forward the following recommendation. That the council receive and note the summary of the council's community interactions and informal meetings of councillors.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor, second that motion, please.
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. Just in regards to a few activities I'd like to pick out. One was the Shepparton RSL service for the fallen and the launch of the Chevelle Australia Light Horse Anniversary Ride. It was all based on the Charge of the Light Brigade and the Battle of Beersheba with General Sir Henry, or Harry as we've known, Chevelle. It was fantastic over in the Queen's Gardens to be present with that, with the horses and the riders as they headed off. Tremendous. One point of note though, I mean, we've got Anzac Day coming up, and we'll certainly make homage to those that have fallen in the line of duty. But the horses that went overseas, 136,000 horses went overseas from Australia in World War I, and only one came back that they recorded, which was Sandy, the horse that came back. So, bear in mind, particularly for animal lovers and for the general population, they've given up their lives to be over there as well. It was terrific to go to the Shepparton Multidisciplinary Centre that's been opened in High Street. A really great facility, great service for those in regards to violence, in regards to child safety. There's so many avenues by which this is housed and done in a very conventional and very contemporary way of looking after those very, very vulnerable people. And this is a fantastic centre that was opened up last month. Certainly, Greater Shepparton Business Network, the one that was held at Everyday Supplies there. That particular service is, in regards to the business network, is really flourishing, and it's great to see there's so many new businesses that are coming on board with that particular business network. Also the CFA, the VFBA State Championships. We've had the championships here in Baroota for the last 5 years, and they're now heading off to store, which is fantastic. And we wish them all the best, but we've been so lucky and so fortunate to have those, both the senior and the junior championships for the last 5 years. And from a multicultural perspective, the interfaith dinner at the Albanian Mosque, absolutely sensational to see there. The Holy Festival of Colours, which I think Councillor Summer and I were absolutely covered in colours at the end of that particular festival, and Italian Festa, of course, which was held at the showgrounds there, at the multi-purpose facility there. The crowd that was there was fantastic, and many of the councillors got an opportunity to speak on Radio Italia directly over to Italy. So that was a highlight as well.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak for the motion?
No, thank you.
Very good. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? No?
Oh, I've just noticed there's a few that,
Yeah, we would pick that up.
yeah, but I can speak for the motion.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
would like
great.
to speak for the motion.
Well, it's definitely the Holy Festival of Colour, as stated by Councillor Brophy, and I was also at the Shepparton RSL service for the fallen. And interesting to know that my mum and her husband went to the very end of their journey and saw them actually ride that far over this long. It was only, I think, last week when they arrived. They must have had very sore legs by the end of that journey, but it really was astonishing. And I love the fact that they're really highlighting the role that horses play in war and the tragedy of how many we had to lose because we can't bring them back because quarantine and all those things.
No, very good. Thank you, Councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No? Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Page 95, item 16, notice of motion, amendment or rescission not received. Item 17, urgent business not included on the agenda. Any urgent business arisen since the finalisation? No. And item 18, close the meeting, which I'll do at 4:46. Right.